My boyfriend said he needed to talk to me. I thought it was going to be another small argument about work schedules or whose turn it was to cook dinner. Instead, he looked at me with this strange tension in his eyes and said something that made my chest feel like it had collapsed inward. "My ex is coming back for a few days," he said quietly. "I need you to pretend that you and I aren't together." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. Pretend we weren't together. As if the last 2 years of my life could just be folded up and put away like an old receipt. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask the 100 questions racing through my head. I simply stood there staring at him, trying to understand how the man I loved could say something like that with such calm certainty. Then I picked up my car keys from the counter and walked out of his apartment. I didn't look back. My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 28 years old, and for the past 4 years, I've been working as a freelance photographer. It's not glamorous work. Most days, I photograph real estate listings, bright kitchens, staged living rooms, bedrooms that all blur together after a while. Occasionally, I shoot weddings or corporate headshots if someone recommends me. It pays the bills, barely, but it gives me something I value more than money: freedom. Freedom to schedule my days, freedom to wander the city looking for light, freedom to feel like I'm building something on my own terms. That's how I met Daniel Carter, 2 years ago, in a small coffee shop in Portland. I remember the exact table we were sitting at, near the window where the late afternoon sunlight angled across the floor. He was working on architectural sketches spread across the table, his brow slightly furrowed in concentration. He looked like the kind of man who had his life planned down to the smallest detail. Dark hair, calm voice, focused eyes. A junior architect at a mid-sized firm downtown. The type of person who builds things meant to last. We started talking over something stupid, my camera bag knocking into his chair when I walked past. He apologized, even though it was clearly my fault. That conversation lasted almost 2 hours. After that, we started seeing each other regularly. At least that's what I thought we were doing. The night everything cracked open happened on a Tuesday. I remember it because on my way to Daniel's apartment, I stopped by a bakery and bought a cherry pie as a dumb joke. He was always correcting my math when we argued about bills or budgeting. I thought the pie would make him laugh. When I walked into his apartment, though, he didn't even notice it. Daniel was pacing, back and forth across the living room like someone waiting for bad news. His phone was in his hand, and he kept unlocking the screen, then locking it again. Something was wrong. "Hey," I said slowly, "what's going on?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the pie box in my hands like it had appeared out of nowhere. "Claire, we need to talk." Those words should come with warning sirens. Every relationship disaster in history has probably started with them. I set the pie down on the kitchen counter. "What about?" Daniel stopped pacing. Then he took a slow breath like he was about to jump into cold water. "My ex is coming to Portland for a few days," he said. I blinked. "Okay." Her name was Olivia Parker. I had heard it maybe twice in the 2 years we'd been together. Never in detail. Never in stories. Just a name floating somewhere in the background of his past. "She's flying in from Chicago for work," Daniel continued. "She'll be here the rest of the week." Still, I didn't understand why this mattered. "So?" Then he said the sentence that would replay in my mind over and over for weeks. "I need you to pretend we're not together while she's here." The room went silent. For a moment, I honestly thought he was joking. "What?" He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. "She doesn't know about you." I stared at him. "You've been dating me for 2 years." "I know." "And she doesn't know I exist?" "It's complicated." That word again. Complicated. People use it when they're hiding something. I felt something inside my chest begin to crack, like ice breaking across a frozen lake. "So what exactly are you asking me to do?" I said quietly. "Just stay away for a few days," he replied. "Don't come by the apartment. Don't answer if she calls my phone. Just give me a little space to handle things." "Handle what?" He hesitated. "That situation." I laughed once. Not because anything was funny, because my brain couldn't process what was happening. "You want me to disappear?" "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Daniel?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. Then he looked down at the floor. "I can't explain right now." I felt my fingers trembling. "Are you still in love with her?" His head snapped up. "No." "Then why does she matter more than I do?" "That's not fair." "Fair?" My voice rose for the first time. "You're asking me to pretend I don't exist." He stepped closer. "Claire, please, just trust me." Trust. After that sentence, I picked up my keys from the counter. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped them. "Claire." I didn't wait to hear the rest. I walked to the door. Behind me, I heard his voice again, louder this time. "Claire, wait!" But I was already opening the door. The hallway outside his apartment smelled like old carpet cleaner and someone's burned dinner. The door clicked shut behind me. For a few seconds, I just stood there, breathing hard. trying to understand how 2 years of memories could suddenly feel like nothing. I drove for almost 2 hours that night. No destination. Just empty Portland streets sliding past my headlights. Eventually, I ended up parked near the waterfront. The Willamette River looked black and motionless under the streetlights. A couple jogged past holding hands. Another couple sat on a bench laughing about something. Normal people living normal lives. My phone kept buzzing on the passenger seat. Daniel. Again, and again, and again. I didn't answer. I didn't read the messages either, because I already knew what they would say. It's complicated. Please trust me. Just a few days. I leaned my head back against the seat and stared at the dark sky above the river. For the first time since I met Daniel Carter, I wondered if the entire relationship had been a lie. The next morning, I woke up on my couch, still wearing yesterday's clothes. My neck hurt. My phone had 17 missed calls. 12 from Daniel. 5 from my best friend, Isabel. I stared at the screen for a long moment before calling Isabel back. She picked up immediately. Claire, thank God. Are you okay? I'm fine. That's not what Daniel says. My stomach tightened. So he told you? Yes, she said quietly. And? There was a pause on the line. A heavy one. Finally, Isabel sighed. Claire, he's losing his mind. He's been calling me all night asking if I've heard from you. Good. You don't understand, she said. I understand perfectly. Another silence. Then Isabel said something that made the air leave my lungs. Claire, he didn't mean it the way it sounded. I laughed bitterly. How else could it possibly sound? She hesitated again. Then she lowered her voice. Because Olivia has been threatening him for months. My heart skipped. What? Claire, Isabel said quietly. You need to hear the whole story. For a few seconds after Isabel said that, I didn't speak. Threatening him? That didn't match the picture I had built in my head over the past 12 hours. In that version of events, Daniel was the one betraying me. The one choosing his past over our present. But Isabel's voice sounded different. Careful. Worried. Claire, she said softly, are you still there? I'm here. I sat up slowly on my couch, pushing my hair back from my face. What do you mean threatening him? There was a pause long enough that I could hear her breathing through the phone. Daniel didn't tell you anything? No. He said he would explain. Well, he didn't. Another pause. Then Isabel sighed. Look, I don't know all the details, but Olivia has been calling him for months. Calling him about what? Money. The word landed like a small stone dropping into water. Ripples spreading through my thoughts. What kind of money? She says Daniel owes her. That made even less sense. Daniel was the most financially cautious person I knew. He tracked his expenses in spreadsheets. He argued with me about splitting groceries exactly down the middle. How much? He told me it started around 20,000, Isabel said. But now she's saying it's 30. My brain froze. $30,000? That's what he told me. I leaned back against the couch again. Why didn't he just tell me? Because he's embarrassed, Isabel said, and because he's scared. Scared of what? She's been threatening to destroy his career. My chest tightened. What? She's told him she'll call his firm. Tell them he committed financial fraud. That word again. Fraud. Something about the conversation felt unreal, like I'd woken up inside someone else's life. Why would she say that? I don't know, Isabel admitted. Daniel didn't explain everything. He just said things got complicated when they broke up. I closed my eyes. Complicated. That word again. But that doesn't explain why he asked me to disappear, I said. He didn't want Olivia to know about you. Why? Because he thinks she'll come after you too. The silence that followed stretched long and heavy. Part of me wanted to believe that. Part of me didn't. After everything he'd said last night, trust felt fragile. Where is he now? I asked. At his apartment, Isabel said. And Claire, Olivia, is there with him. My eyes opened. Right now? Yes. And you're just telling me this? Because he asked me not to involve you, she said. Well, that worked out great. Claire, I have to go. Wait! But I had already ended the call. For the next few days, I did exactly what Daniel had asked. I disappeared. Not because he told me to, because I didn't know what else to do. I buried myself in work. One morning, I photographed a renovated bungalow in Selwood. White kitchen cabinets, open floor plan, hardwood floors polished so bright they reflected my flash. The homeowners hovered behind me nervously while I adjusted angles and lighting. Does the place look good? The woman asked. It looks great, I said automatically. But I barely saw it. My mind kept replaying the same moment. Daniel standing in his living room, his voice calm. Pretend we're not together. That night, I edited photos until 3 a.m. The next day, I shot a modern condo downtown. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, a view of the river stretching across the entire living room window. The realtor kept talking about square footage and natural light. I nodded politely. But my thoughts were somewhere else. Daniel. Olivia. $30,000. Threats. Every piece of information felt like a puzzle that refused to form a complete picture. Friday evening, my friend Cole texted me. Drinks tonight? You've been MIA. Cole and I had known each other since college. He worked as a sound technician for local bands and had the kind of personality that made silence comfortable. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back. Sure. The bar he chose was one of those old Portland dive places that looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 1980s. Sticky floors, neon beer signs on every wall, a jukebox in the corner playing classic rock, pool tables in the back. Cole was already there when I arrived, leaning against the bar with 2 beers waiting. You look like you haven't slept in a week, he said when I sat down. Feels about right? Woman trouble? He asked casually. I hesitated. Something like that. He nodded once. Didn't ask anything else. That's one of the reasons I liked Cole. We drank quietly for a while. Then we moved to the pool tables in the back. I lost the first game, then the second, then the third. My head wasn't in it. Late that night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something in my chest tightened. I stepped away from the pool table and answered. Hello? Claire. It was Isabel. Her voice sounded urgent. I told you I was fine, I said. Shut up and listen. I frowned. What's wrong? Do you know what Daniel's ex has done? The words made my stomach twist. What are you talking about? She's been telling everyone Daniel stole money from her. The bar noise around me faded. Start from the beginning. She's been harassing Daniel for months, Isabel said. Calls, texts, showing up at his office, threatening to report him to the police. For what? For stealing from her. I leaned against the edge of the pool table. Cole watched me from across the room, eyebrows raised. How much money are we talking about? I asked quietly. She's claiming $30,000 now. My stomach dropped. She says Daniel forged financial documents while they were together. What? That he used her information to take out investment loans. That doesn't sound like Daniel. I know, Isabel said, but she has documents, text messages, things that make it look bad. I rubbed my forehead. Why didn't he tell me any of this? Because he didn't want you involved. Too late for that. There was another pause. Then Isabel said something that made my heart start beating faster. Claire, Olivia's at his apartment right now. My grip tightened on the phone. And it's not going well. The air in the bar suddenly felt thick. What do you mean? She's demanding money, Isabel said. A payment plan. She's threatening to ruin him if he doesn't agree. I looked toward the door. My brain was already making the decision before I consciously realized it. Where exactly is she? At his place on Hawthorne. Okay. Claire, wait. But I had already hung up. Cole walked over. Everything okay? I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. I have to go. Need backup? No. I headed toward the door. Call me later, he said. But I was already outside. The cold night air hit my face as I walked quickly toward my car. My heart was pounding. Part anger. Part confusion. Part something else I didn't want to name yet. 10 minutes later, I was driving toward Hawthorne. Streetlights flashing across my windshield. Questions racing through my mind. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say when I got there, or what I would find waiting. But one thing had become painfully clear. I wasn't disappearing anymore. When I pulled up across the street from Daniel's apartment building, it was close to 11. The building was old brick, 3 stories. Iron fire escapes zigzagging down the front. I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, trying to calm the shaking in my hands. Then I saw her, standing outside the building entrance. Tall, perfect posture, dark coat, phone pressed to her ear, laughing softly about something, like she didn't have a care in the world. I knew immediately who she was. Olivia Parker, Daniel's ex, the woman who had just blown my entire life open. I opened the car door, stepped out into the cold night, and started walking toward her. The cold night air bit through my jacket as I crossed the street. Olivia hadn't noticed me yet. She stood under the yellow glow of a street lamp, one hand tucked into the pocket of her coat, the other holding her phone to her ear. Her voice carried faintly across the sidewalk. No, the meetings went well, she was saying casually. I'll be back in Chicago Monday. She sounded relaxed, comfortable, like this trip to Portland was nothing more than a routine business visit, not the emotional grenade she had just thrown into Daniel's life, or mine. I slowed as I got closer. For the first time I really looked at her. She was tall, probably 5'9" or 5'10". Dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail, expensive coat, heeled boots that clicked softly against the pavement, confident posture. The kind of woman who had never once doubted she belonged in any room she walked into. Then she noticed me. Her eyes flicked toward me, briefly curious. She finished her sentence into the phone. All right, talk soon. She hung up and slipped the phone into her pocket. Can I help you? She asked politely. Her voice was calm, professional, like she assumed I was a stranger asking for directions. I stopped about 10 feet away. "You're Olivia." It wasn't a question. She studied my face for a second. Something changed in her expression. Recognition. "Oh," she said softly. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "You must be Claire." My stomach tightened. So she knew exactly who I was. "Daniel told you about me," I said. She tilted her head slightly. "Not exactly." A thin breeze moved down the street, carrying the distant sound of traffic from Hawthorne Boulevard. I crossed my arms. "Then how do you know my name?" Olivia shrugged lightly. "I'm good at finding things out." The casual arrogance in her voice made heat rise in my chest. "So you're the one who's been threatening him?" Her smile widened a fraction. "Threatening is a strong word. Extorting, then." That made her laugh. A short, sharp sound. "You've been talking to Daniel." "I've been talking to people who actually tell the truth." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Oh, I doubt that." She stepped a little closer. Now the streetlight illuminated her face clearly. Perfect makeup. Perfect composure. A woman who had mastered the art of control. "Let me guess," she said calmly. "He told you I'm crazy." "He told me you're demanding money." Her expression didn't change. "That's because he owes me money." $30,000? "Closer to that now," she corrected, light and casual, like it was a number on a receipt. My stomach twisted. "That's not what happened." "Oh?" she said lightly. "Then what did he tell you?" "That you manipulated him into a bad investment." She laughed again, this time louder. "You really believe that?" "I believe Daniel." Olivia studied me for a moment, almost like she was evaluating something. Then she sighed. God, he always did know how to play the victim. The anger that had been simmering in my chest flared hotter. "You really want to do this out here?" I said. Her eyes held mine. "I'll do it anywhere." She pulled her phone from her coat pocket. A few quick taps. Then she turned the screen toward me. "See for yourself." I hesitated, then stepped closer. On the screen was a document. Loan paperwork. Daniel's name. Olivia's name. Signatures. Numbers. I felt my pulse quicken. "He forged my signature on the investment authorization," Olivia said. "That's fraud." I forced myself to breathe. "Anyone can fake documents." "Sure," she said calmly. Then she scrolled. Text messages appeared. Daniel's name at the top. Messages thanking her for the opportunity. Talking about the investment. Talking about repayment timelines. My stomach dropped. "You see the problem?" Olivia said softly. I stepped back. "No, you don't want to see it." "I know Daniel. You know the version of him he shows you." The words landed harder than I expected. She slipped the phone back into her pocket. "Look," she continued, her tone softening slightly, "I don't actually care about your relationship." "Then why are you here?" "To collect what I'm owed." "And threatening his career is the way to do that?" "I'm giving him options." "Options?" She shrugged. "Payment plan. Settlement. Something that shows he's taking responsibility." "And if he doesn't?" Her eyes held mine. Then she smiled again. "I start making phone calls." The calm certainty in her voice made my skin crawl. "You'd ruin his life over money?" "He ruined mine first." Before I could respond, the apartment building door opened behind her. A couple walked out laughing, passing between us on the sidewalk. Olivia stepped aside to let them through. Then she glanced back at me. "You should probably go home," she said. "Why?" "Because this situation has nothing to do with you." "It has everything to do with me." "Not really." Her voice was almost sympathetic now. "Daniel and I have history." "So do we." She tilted her head again. "Yes," she said. "But not the kind that involves forged paperwork." My hands clenched at my sides. "You're lying." "Am I?" The building door opened again, this time from the inside. A man stepped out onto the sidewalk. Tall. Dark hair. Familiar posture. Daniel. His eyes moved immediately to Olivia. Then they landed on me. The color drained from his face. "Claire?" Olivia turned slowly. Her expression brightened with sudden interest. "Well," she said softly, "this just got interesting." Daniel stepped toward us quickly. "What are you doing here?" he asked me. "I came to hear the truth." "You shouldn't be here." "That's funny," Olivia said smoothly. I was just telling her the same thing. Daniel ignored her. His eyes stayed locked on mine. "Claire, please, go home." "No." His jaw tightened. "This isn't something you should be involved in. You already involved me the second you asked me to disappear." The tension between us stretched tight as a wire. Olivia watched us both like someone observing a chess match. Then she checked the time on her watch. "Well," she said casually, "I think I'm done out here freezing." She turned toward the apartment entrance. "I'll be upstairs waiting, Daniel." She glanced over her shoulder. "And Claire?" "Yes? You might want to hear what he has to say." Then she opened the door and disappeared inside the building. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "You should have stayed away." "I'm not doing that anymore." His shoulders sagged slightly. For the first time since I'd arrived, he looked tired. Really tired. "Claire," he said quietly, "you don't understand what she's capable of." I looked toward the building door, then back at him, Then explain it to me. He hesitated, like he was deciding whether the truth would make things better or destroy everything completely. Daniel stood there for a long moment without answering. Cars passed slowly along the street behind us, headlights sliding across the brick walls of the building. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked. The city felt strangely normal for a night that suddenly felt like everything in my life had shifted. Claire, he said finally, his voice low, this is exactly what I didn't want to happen. You mean me finding out? I mean you getting dragged into it. I folded my arms. That ship sailed the moment you asked me to pretend I didn't exist. He winced slightly at that. For a second, I thought he might argue. Instead, he just looked tired. Come inside, he said. Why? Because Olivia's already up there waiting for a payment plan I can't give her. So she's expecting you? Yes. And she doesn't want me there. Exactly. I held his gaze. Good. Before he could stop me, I walked toward the entrance and pushed the building door open. The lobby smelled faintly like old wood polish and laundry detergent. A narrow staircase climbed toward the upper floors, the metal railing worn smooth from years of hands gripping it. I started up the stairs. Daniel followed behind me. Claire, please, he said quietly. Just listen for a second before you say anything up there. I'm listening. He hesitated. Then he spoke quickly, like someone ripping off a bandage. She thinks I owe her $30,000. I know. She's threatening to report me for fraud if I don't sign a repayment agreement tonight. You told me that too. That's not the whole story. We reached the third-floor landing. Daniel stopped. So tell me the rest, I said. He exhaled slowly. Olivia and I dated for 2 years, he began. We met during our last year of college. That part I knew. What you don't know is how it ended. He leaned back against the wall. She pitched me an investment opportunity. My eyebrows lifted slightly. What kind of investment? Real estate development. The words immediately sounded familiar. Where? Milwaukee. My stomach tightened. She said her friend had access to a development project that was going to double in value once construction started, Daniel continued, but they needed capital fast. How much? $20,000. And she convinced you to take out the loan? Yes. His voice was quiet. She said we'd both be owners, that we'd pay it back together within a year. And you believed her? He gave a short, bitter laugh. I was 25, in love, and she was very convincing. I leaned against the railing, watching him carefully. So what happened? For 3 months, everything seemed normal, he said. Then she told me the investment collapsed. Collapsed how? Construction permits fell through, investors backed out, something like that. And the money? Gone. I felt a cold sensation spread through my chest. And then? Daniel looked down at the floor. 2 weeks later, she broke up with me. What? Said she needed space. Said she wanted to focus on her career. And the loan? I was still responsible for it. My mind tried to piece together the timeline. You paid it yourself. I tried, he said. But $20,000 isn't something you just pull out of your pocket. He rubbed his forehead. For a long time I made payments, minimum ones, just trying to keep the debt collectors away. Did you talk to her? I tried. And? She stopped responding. A slow anger began building in my chest. And then suddenly she reappears. He nodded. And that's when the threats started. She said she'd been reviewing the paperwork, he continued, and now she's claiming I forged her signature on the investment authorization. I remembered the documents she showed me outside. That's what she showed me tonight. Of course she did. Daniel laughed again, but there was no humor in it. She saved copies of everything. But you didn't forge anything. No. Then why are you scared? Because the paperwork makes it look like I did. I frowned. How? Because technically the loan was in my name, he explained. But the investment authorization lists both of us as participants. So if she tells people I falsified her signature to authorize the investment, it looks like fraud. And she has messages from you thanking her. Yes. The pieces started forming a disturbing picture. She set the trap, I said. That's what I've been trying to tell you. And she's been threatening to expose it. To my firm, to the bank, to anyone who will listen. And what does she want now? Money. $30,000. Exactly. We stood in silence for a moment. Then I asked the question that had been circling my thoughts since Isabel called. Why didn't you tell me? Daniel looked at me. Really looked, because I was ashamed. The honesty in his voice caught me off guard. I should have been smarter, he continued quietly. I should have seen what she was doing back then. Instead, I believed her. That doesn't make you stupid. It makes me responsible. You were manipulated. Try explaining that to a bank. Or an architecture firm, I thought. Or the police. And you thought pushing me away would fix it. I thought it would protect you. From what? From her. He pushed away from the wall. Claire, Olivia is the kind of person who doesn't stop once she starts something. If she knew about you, she'd drag you into this too. So instead you asked me to vanish. Yes. I let out a slow breath. You really thought that would work? I didn't know what else to do. We heard footsteps above us, someone walking across the ceiling of the apartment above. The building felt suddenly too quiet. Is she still in your apartment? I asked. Yes, and she's expecting you to sign something tonight. He nodded. Payment schedule, monthly installments. And if you don't? She starts making phone calls tomorrow. I looked toward the door at the end of the hallway. Daniel's apartment, the place where we had spent countless evenings watching movies, cooking dinner, talking about the future. Now it felt like the entrance to a battlefield. Claire, he said quietly. What? You should go home. I shook my head. No. Please. No. This isn't your fight. Maybe not, I said. But it became my problem the second she tried to destroy someone I love. He stared at me. You're still willing to help me after what I asked you to do? I thought about the last few days. The anger, the confusion, the pain. Then I looked back at him. Yes. His shoulders relaxed slightly. Then I turned toward his apartment door. Good, I said, because I think it's time we talk to Olivia together. Before he could stop me, I reached for the handle and pushed the door open. Inside the apartment, Olivia was sitting calmly at the kitchen counter. A stack of papers spread neatly in front of her. She looked up as we walked in. Then she smiled. Perfect timing, she said. Daniel, I just finished drafting your payment agreement. Her eyes moved to me. Well, this should be interesting. Olivia sat at Daniel's kitchen counter like she owned the place. Her coat was draped neatly over the back of one of the chairs. The stack of papers in front of her was arranged with almost surgical precision. A pen rested on top of the first page. Prepared, organized, confident. The kind of confidence that comes from believing you've already won. Well, she said lightly as Daniel and I stepped into the apartment. I didn't expect both of you. Daniel closed the door behind us. His jaw was tight. What are you doing? He asked her. Drafting a solution, she replied. Her manicured finger tapped the top sheet of paper. A repayment agreement. Daniel didn't move. Olivia sighed. Honestly, Daniel, I thought you'd be relieved. This is the best option for everyone. I stepped forward slightly. $30,000? She looked at me. Her expression carried the faintest trace of amusement. Yes. You're charging him interest now? Late fees, she corrected calmly, and penalties. Daniel laughed under his breath. Penalties for what? For trusting you? Olivia ignored him. Instead, she slid the papers across the counter. You start paying next month, she said. $2,000 per month until the balance is cleared. That's impossible, Daniel said. You're an architect, she replied. You'll figure it out. I leaned against the counter. Or what? Her eyes flicked toward me again. Or I start making phone calls. To his firm? To the bank? To the police? Her voice was so calm it was almost chilling. Fraud tends to get people's attention. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. You know that's not what happened. Olivia tilted her head slightly. Do I? You manipulated me. Did I? You pitched the investment. And you signed the paperwork. You promised we'd pay it back together. Her smile didn't move. Did I? The gaslighting was so smooth it almost felt rehearsed. I felt a slow heat building in my chest. You've done this before, I said. That got her attention. Her eyes sharpened. What do you mean? I held her gaze. Convincing someone to take out loans, promising investment returns, then disappearing. For the first time since I'd met her, her smile faded slightly. That's a serious accusation. Is it? She leaned back in the chair. Be careful, Claire. The way she said my name made my skin crawl. Defamation can get expensive. Daniel looked between us. What is she talking about? Nothing, Olivia said smoothly. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because the truth was, at that moment I didn't actually have proof. Only a suspicion. But sometimes suspicion is enough to start pulling threads. Olivia pushed the papers toward Daniel again. Sign the agreement, she said. No. Then you're forcing my hand. Daniel stepped forward. You think threatening me is going to work forever? It's worked so far. Silence filled the room. Then Olivia gathered her coat from the chair. I'm flying back to Chicago tomorrow morning, she said. She picked up the papers and slid them into a leather folder. You have a couple days. For what? Daniel asked. To send me a signed repayment plan. And if I don't? Her smile returned. Then I start making calls. She walked toward the door, then paused beside me. You seem smart, she said quietly. You should stay out of this. Then she opened the door and left. The lock clicked behind her. For several seconds, neither Daniel nor I spoke. The apartment suddenly felt much larger and much emptier. Daniel leaned both hands on the kitchen counter and stared at the floor. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For dragging you into this. You didn't drag me. I should have told you earlier. Yes, I said. You should have. He looked up at me. Are you angry? Yes. He nodded slowly. That's fair. I walked to the living room window. Outside, the streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk. Olivia was already gone. How long has she been doing this? I asked. Doing what? Manipulating people. Daniel frowned. I don't know what you mean. I think she's done this before. What? I don't have proof yet. Then why would you think that? Because of the way she talked, I thought. Because of the way she controlled every moment of that conversation. Because people like Olivia rarely run the same game only once. I have a feeling, I said. Daniel rubbed his temples. Claire, this isn't a movie. She's not some criminal mastermind. No, I said. But she might be a pattern. He looked at me. What does that mean? It means tomorrow I'm going to start digging. The next morning, I opened my laptop at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and one clear goal. Find Olivia Parker. The internet has a funny way of holding on to pieces of people's lives. Professional profiles, old social media posts, archived forums, little fragments of truth scattered across digital spaces. It didn't take long to find her. LinkedIn first. Olivia Parker, Senior Marketing Strategist, Chicago-based consulting firm, perfect corporate headshot, perfect resume, perfect career trajectory. Then Instagram. Vacation photos, luxury restaurants, golf courses, weekend trips to Aspen, the kind of life that suggested money. A lot of money. But one thing bothered me. None of it went back more than a few years. Everything before that was gone. Deleted. Cleaned. That alone would have been suspicious. But then I found something else. Buried deep in search results. A link to an old Reddit thread. Legal advice forum. The post itself had been deleted, but the title still appeared in a cached preview. It described someone asking if they could sue their ex-boyfriend for financial coercion. Loan taken out for a business investment. Promises of shared profits. Then disappearance. Then threats. The amount mentioned in the preview? $30,000. I leaned back in my chair, my heart beating faster. Then I scrolled down to the username. Windy City Victim 88. I grabbed my phone and called Isabel. She answered on the second ring. Claire? I think I found something. What? Something about Olivia. What kind of something? I stared at the screen. At least one other victim? There was silence on the line. Then Isabel whispered something that made the situation suddenly feel much bigger. Oh my God. What? That Reddit post. I remember it. You do? Yes. Why? Her voice dropped. Because Daniel showed it to me a long time ago. My heart skipped. What? Isabel's voice stayed low, like she was afraid of saying it too loudly. That post was written by him. For a moment, I thought I had misheard her. Wait, I said slowly. Daniel wrote that post. Yes, she replied. My mind tried to rewind through everything I had just read. The thread title, the fear in it, the amount, the word coercion. Why didn't he tell me? I asked. Because Olivia found the post, Isabel said quietly, and she threatened him after that. A cold feeling slid down my spine. What kind of threat? She told him if he ever talked publicly about what happened, she'd destroy him. How? She said she had documents that would make it look like he committed fraud. The same leverage, the same trap. Suddenly, the entire situation felt much darker. I looked back at the laptop screen. So this has been hanging over him. Yes, Isabel said. Long before you. The realization landed slowly. This wasn't new. This had been living in the background the entire time Daniel and I were together. Claire, Isabel said carefully, what are you going to do? I stared at the screen. I'm going to find out if Daniel was the only one. The internet is strange. People reveal pieces of themselves everywhere without realizing how those fragments connect. Forums, public filings, archived discussions. By the afternoon, I had already discovered something unsettling. Daniel's story wasn't unique. It wasn't even rare. After adjusting a few search terms, I found another case in Chicago. A small claims lawsuit from a few years back. The plaintiff was a man named Ryan Miller. The defendant? Olivia Parker. The amount disputed? $15,000. The case had been dismissed. Insufficient evidence. But the description of the situation was disturbingly familiar. Loan taken for a joint investment. Money lost. Relationship ended. Dispute over responsibility. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. This was exactly what Daniel described, which meant Olivia hadn't just manipulated him. She might have built an entire pattern around it. I took screenshots of everything. Then I called Daniel. He answered immediately. Claire, where are you? At work. I need you to listen carefully. His voice tightened slightly. What's wrong? I think Olivia has done this before. Silence. What do you mean? I found a lawsuit. Against her? Yes. For what? Loan coercion, investment scam behavior. The details match you. Another pause. Then Daniel exhaled slowly. Claire, you're probably looking too deep into this. No, you don't know that it's the same situation. The structure is almost identical. He didn't respond. So I kept going. There was another loan, another investment promise, another breakup, and another victim. Daniel finally spoke again. You're saying she's done this multiple times? Yes. That's hard to believe. Why? Because if that were true, someone would have stopped her by now. Not if nobody connected the stories. The line went quiet. I could almost hear his mind turning. Finally, he asked, "What do you want to do?" "I want to find the other people." "You mean the victims?" "Yes. That could be dangerous. She's already threatening you." "That doesn't mean you should get involved deeper." "I'm already involved." He sighed. "You're really not going to drop this, are you?" "No." A long pause followed. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Okay." I blinked. "Okay? If she's done this to other people, we should know." My chest tightened slightly. "Are you sure?" "No," he admitted. "But if you're right, then maybe I'm not the only one she's been controlling." Over the next few days, our investigation slowly grew. Piece by piece, Daniel and I spent hours searching whatever was publicly available. Business filings, court listings, old discussions. Sometimes we found nothing. Other times we found fragments. A complaint here, a deleted thread there. Eventually a pattern began to appear. Chicago, Milwaukee, Denver, different men, different loans, each one between $15,000 and $30,000. Each one connected to an investment opportunity Olivia had supposedly arranged. Each one followed by the same sequence. Money disappears. Relationship ends. Threats begin. The pattern was impossible to ignore. One night, Daniel leaned back in his chair and ran a hand through his hair. "This is insane," he said. "I know. How did nobody catch this before?" "Because each person thought they were the only one." He stared at the list of names we had written on a legal pad. "Do you think we should contact them?" "Yes." "And say what?" "That we think Olivia is running a coercion scheme." He frowned. "That could get us sued." "Maybe." "And you're still willing to do it?" "Yes." Daniel looked at me carefully. "Why?" "Because I love you." The answer rose in my mind instantly, but I didn't say it. Instead, I shrugged slightly. "Because someone should." He held my gaze for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "All right." The first person who responded was Ryan Miller. He agreed to speak with us over a video call. When his face appeared on the laptop screen, he looked exhausted. Late 30s. Short beard. The kind of expression people carry after years of frustration. "So you're saying she did the same thing to you?" he asked Daniel. "Yes." Ryan shook his head slowly. "I knew it." "You did?" "She pitched me the exact same investment story." "How much money?" Daniel asked. $15,000. "And then?" I asked. "The investment collapsed," Ryan said. "At least that's what she told me." "And the money?" "Gone." Daniel exchanged a glance with me. "And after the breakup?" I asked. Ryan laughed bitterly. "She started threatening me." "What kind of threats?" "She said she'd report me for fraud." "Fraud?" Daniel repeated. Ryan leaned closer to the camera. "She claimed I forged her signature on the investment authorization." Daniel's face went pale. "That's exactly what she's accusing me of." Ryan nodded slowly. "Yeah." He leaned back in his chair. "That woman is dangerous." The word hung in the air between us. Dangerous. And suddenly the situation felt bigger than just one relationship dispute. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about a pattern. And now, Daniel was the latest target. Ryan looked directly at the camera. "If you two want to stop her," he said quietly, "you're going to need a lawyer." The word lawyer hung in the air long after Ryan ended the call. Daniel closed the laptop slowly. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. The quiet in my apartment felt heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks. "Well," Daniel said finally, rubbing the back of his neck. "That's terrifying." "Yeah." He walked to the window and stared out at the street below. I kept thinking maybe I was the only one who fell for it. "You weren't." Which somehow makes it worse. I understood what he meant. Because if Olivia had done this to multiple people, then what we were looking at wasn't just a messy breakup or a bad investment. It was a system, a pattern, a carefully designed manipulation. Daniel turned back toward me. "You really think we should take legal action?" "Yes." "That means a lawsuit?" "Yes." "That means she'll fight back." "Probably." He ran both hands through his hair. "She already thinks I'm guilty." "She needs you to look guilty," I said. "Why?" "Because that's how she keeps control." He looked at me for a moment, then slowly nodded. "Okay." A few days later, we were sitting in a quiet law office downtown. The plaque outside the door read, "Grace Chun, Attorney at Law. Financial abuse and coercion cases." The office itself was calm and minimalist. Dark wood desk, large windows overlooking the city, a row of legal books lining the wall behind her chair. Grace Chun looked like someone who missed absolutely nothing. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, calm voice. She listened without interrupting as Daniel told the entire story from the beginning. The loan, the investment, the breakup, the threats. Then I showed her the research we had gathered. The deleted thread title, the small claims case, Ryan's testimony, other fragments we had found. Grace studied everything carefully. When she finally leaned back in her chair, her expression had changed. This is interesting, she said. Daniel leaned forward. Interesting good or interesting bad? Interesting powerful. What does that mean? It means this may not just be a personal dispute. She tapped the papers lightly. It may be a pattern of financial coercion. Daniel blinked. That's illegal? Yes. And the documents Olivia is using? They complicate things, Grace admitted. How? Because some of the paperwork is designed to make you look like the one in control, she said. That's a common tactic, but coercion changes the context. Daniel's eyes widened slightly. So she could actually be the one in trouble? Yes, but we would need proof. What kind of proof? I asked. Evidence that she repeated the same scheme with multiple people. Grace looked at our notes again. More victims, more timelines, similar language, similar numbers. Daniel leaned back in his chair slowly. A pattern. Exactly, Grace said. If you want to proceed, we can file a civil case. What would that do? Daniel asked. It would accuse Olivia Parker of financial coercion and fraudulent manipulation, Grace said. And it would force the story into a place where intimidation doesn't work as well. And if we win? I asked. She would be required to repay, Grace said, and the record would exist. And if we lose? Daniel asked. Grace shrugged slightly. Then she continues controlling the narrative. Daniel looked down at his hands. Can she retaliate? She will try. With what? Defamation claims, counter threats, pressure. Daniel glanced at me. Sounds familiar. Grace nodded. People who rely on intimidation rarely stop voluntarily. I felt my stomach tighten. So this could get messy. Yes. Daniel exhaled slowly. Then he said one word. Good. Grace nodded once. Then let's begin. The next couple months were a blur. Phone calls, legal paperwork, evidence gathering. Grace contacted the people we had identified. Some ignored it. Some were too exhausted to reopen the wound. But a few agreed to talk. Ryan, another man in Denver who had lost nearly $25,000. Their stories were almost identical to Daniel's. Investment opportunity, shared financial risk, sudden disappearance, threats of fraud accusations when repayment disputes began. Grace organized it into a single case. Multiple victims, one pattern, one manipulator. The lawsuit was filed. The response came faster than anyone expected. Olivia's lawyer contacted Grace quickly. They offered a settlement. Grace called Daniel immediately. We met her in the same office again that afternoon. They want this to disappear quietly, she explained. What kind of settlement? Daniel asked. They'll drop all claims against you. And the money? I asked. No repayment. Daniel frowned. So they just want everything buried? Yes. And if we refuse? Grace asked. Then it becomes harder for them to contain, she said carefully. Public meant attention. Public meant reputation. Public meant consequences. Daniel looked at me. What do you think? I didn't hesitate. Say no. Grace smiled slightly. I was hoping you'd say that. Daniel nodded. All right. Grace picked up her phone. Then let's see how Olivia Parker handles sunlight. Once the case became public, everything changed. At first, it barely made a ripple. Just another civil filing among thousands. But then a local reporter picked it up. A headline appeared online. Multiple men accused a Chicago marketing executive of financial coercion tied to an investment scheme. It spread faster than I expected. Not everywhere. Not instantly. But enough. Enough that Olivia's name stopped being a private threat and became something people could search. Daniel stared at his phone the first time he saw it. This is insane, he said quietly. I sat beside him on the couch. Are you okay? I think so. You don't sound convinced. He exhaled slowly. I spent so long feeling like I was the one who did something wrong. And now? Now, strangers are reading about it. The article described the allegations carefully. Multiple victims. Loans taken out under emotional pressure. Threats of fraud accusations. Grace had been careful. But the pattern was clear enough that people were asking questions. And the questions turned toward Olivia. Not long after, Olivia's company released a statement. They were aware of allegations and conducting an internal review. Daniel read it aloud from his phone. Internal review, he repeated. That's corporate language for panic, I said. More fragments surfaced. Old connections. Former colleagues. People who claimed they had seen similar behavior. Not every story was verified, but the pattern was growing. And once the internet senses a pattern, it rarely lets go. Soon after, Grace slid a new document across her desk when we met again. A formal settlement proposal. They're offering full restitution, she said. Daniel blinked. Full repayment? Yes, for everyone involved. I leaned forward. What's the catch? Grace smiled faintly. They want the lawsuit withdrawn. And they want confidentiality. Daniel looked up. So they want silence. Exactly. He stared at the numbers. Why would they offer this now? Because they're scared of what else comes out, Grace said calmly. Daniel's jaw tightened. For a moment, I saw the conflict on his face. Months of fear, years of shame, the desire to end it. Then he spoke. No settlement. Grace's eyebrows lifted slightly. You're sure? Yes. He glanced at me briefly, then back at her. She spent years threatening to destroy my life. Grace nodded slowly. Understood. Then we continue, Daniel said. And we did. More witnesses came forward. More fragments connected. The intimidation stopped working because it was no longer private. Eventually, Olivia's professional life collapsed. Not overnight. Not like a movie. But steadily. Connections cut. Profiles disappear. The public story becomes the story she can't rewrite. One night, Daniel showed me a message she sent him. Only one sentence. You ruined my life. I stared at the screen, then handed the phone back. No, I said quietly. You didn't. Daniel didn't respond. He simply pressed delete. Then he blocked the address. The message disappeared. Just like that. The final stage didn't explode. It slowed down into something quieter and more deliberate. The slow grind of legal consequences. Olivia's team requested mediation. Grace called us and laid it out plainly. Full restitution. For every victim. A written acknowledgement of coercive manipulation. Carefully worded, but clear. Daniel listened in silence. Then he nodded. All right. The settlement finalized later. Olivia Parker repaid every victim. Daniel received what he had lost. And the shadow that had followed him finally lifted. Months later, life looked different. Daniel and I moved into a small place with big windows and clean morning light. Perfect for photography. I converted the second bedroom into a tiny studio. Real estate shoots were still my main income, but now I had space to experiment with portraits and creative work. Daniel stayed at his firm. Once the case clarified the situation, the whispers at work stopped. Some scars didn't disappear immediately. That's why he started therapy. Quiet, slow work. But it helped. One evening, we were sitting on our couch eating takeout, rain tapping softly against the glass. Daniel looked relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. You know what I keep thinking about, he said. What? That night you left my apartment. My chest tightened slightly. Yeah, I thought I had lost you. You almost did. He nodded slowly. I know. We sat quietly for a moment. Then he asked something I'd wondered myself. Why didn't you walk away? I thought about the question carefully. Because the truth was complicated. Part of me had wanted to leave, to protect myself, to avoid the chaos. But another part of me had seen something deeper. Fear, not betrayal. Fear. Because I realized something, I said. What? People don't push you away when they're trying to hurt you. He looked at me. They push you away when they're trying to protect you. Daniel didn't speak for a moment. Then he reached across the couch and took my hand. Later, another message came. Another single line. You ruined my life. Daniel showed it to me. I read it once, then handed the phone back. She's wrong, I said. Why? Because people ruin their own lives when they manipulate others. Daniel stared at the message for a second. Then he pressed delete, blocked the address. And just like that, the last connection to Olivia Parker disappeared. Sometimes I still think about the moment everything almost ended. The night Daniel asked me to pretend we weren't together. How much that sentence hurt. How close I came to walking away forever. If I had, he would have faced Olivia alone. The pattern might never have been discovered, and the next victim might already be trapped in the same scheme. But life doesn't move in straight lines. Sometimes the worst moment becomes the beginning of something stronger. And sometimes the people we love make terrible mistakes. Not because they want to lose us, but because they're afraid we'll get hurt too. Looking back now, I'm glad I didn't disappear.